Alrighty. Let's see. Alrighty. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Cool. Alrighty. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining me today for the CEO Growth Conference interview. Just to have you, I know we were just talking a little bit earlier about that. Unfortunately, you aren't going to be physically present at the event March 13th, but we're beyond grateful to have you. How's it going?
it's going great. I'm getting married and I'm lots of planning, trying to manage career, life, and everything else. So I am honored that, you know, unfortunately, I'm unable to be a part of it physically, but I am honored to the fact that you're running this CEO event and it's just amazing.
Yeah. No, definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, like really, I do appreciate having you on because I think with everything that we are going to cover in this half day event, I still think that there's a lot of, I don't want to say issues, but there's things that family, friends, or people that I see just around me and even strangers that are still going through certain things and whatever that may be are holding is holding them back from becoming the person that they're meant to be, right?
Mhm.
And like the whole point or purpose of this event is to help is very simple. It's to help people realize that there's this inner greatness inside of them, that there's unlimited potential inside of you. And sometimes the world or things happen that convince us otherwise, right? And so that's where we get a lot of doubt, fear, and stuff like that. And I really do think that and I mean, we'll let everyone kind of be the judge of this, right, after this interview and stuff. But like, I really do think that you embody greatness. Um, but yeah, with that, let's just kind of kick it off. I wanted to ask, so like, what are you up to right now? I definitely see your USC Trojans background. Yeah.
My background is actually, I put that up there back in 2018 in January, spring of 2018, because it was when I started my first semester at University of Southern California, which is was my dream school to attend. And I put it on there so that it can motivate me. I put it on there so it can motivate me to know, like, girl, you go to USC, like, you got this. You got accepted because you had the GPA, and your story is enough to change the world. And USC is all about changing the world. And that's why it's back there. So
Okay. Okay. I see you. I see you. Okay. So let's dive a little deeper into that. So, did you graduate from USC already? What
yes,
did?
I got my master's of social work, and I actually graduated in 2020. And yep, I walked with a 3.9 GPA, and
Ooh.
now I am an associate clinical social worker. So I am under the BBS, the Behavioral Board Sciences. So
Okay, okay. And so where are you at right now? So now that you graduate, you got your master's. Are you working somewhere?
yeah, so I am actually working at the Family Recovery Center, which is a program under the umbrella of Mental Health Systems, Inc. It is out here in Oceanside. I've actually been with Family Recovery Center since 2014. Let's backtrack 2 years back from 2014 is actually the year that I walked up the 18 stairs in 2012 to go ask for help. So I walked up those 18 stairs, knocking on their lobby door, trying to ask for help with my son, Carlos. And at the time, he was 9 years old. And I received intensive drug treatment and, psychological testing, evaluation, therapeutic services, parenting skills, employment skills, everything you can think of. And
Yeah.
I lived there for a whole year. And I ended up graduating in 2014 after I did a year of outpatient. So
Okay.
not only did I do a year of residential, but I also did a year of outpatient because I was
Okay.
so afraid of falling back, which I know we really haven't talked too much about that.
Yeah. We could definitely dive deep. I just kind of want everyone to get it up because I understand. This is how I see it. Like, Jasmine, the person you are isn't who you were back then, and I don't want people to see you as that. I want them to see you of who you are now. You know,
Right.
this person who graduated from USC, masters, killing it, about to get married, right? Living life to the fullest. You know, having abundance. And I know you're very religious, close to God. So, definitely I want to talk to those points too. But so yeah, I just really wanted I wanted to highlight those things. But okay, we can dive deep into it now. But what does that mean? Like being an outpatient for a year? What does that mean?
So outpatient for a year is basically you're out of intensive drug treatment and you then are no longer under the supervision of, clinical providers, and you're out on your own. You live in your own home. You're not under supervision, and you have to go about, 3, 4, 5 times a week to intensive outpatient services, which is usually between 6 and 7:30 p.m. And instead of being there all day and living under their roof, you're now outpatient. And so that's what outpatient services means.
Okay, okay, that's and so is this outpatient service optional? Is that something that you can decide to opt in, or just if you don't want to?
So if you are mandated by the judicial system, then it's not optional. For me,
Okay,
it was optional because I was self referred and I knew I needed help and I couldn't continue living the lifestyle.
okay,
So I did choose outpatient.
okay, okay. I see. Uh, so I think it's if it's appropriate, talking a little bit more about that. Like it seems like you were a user of certain things, right? And you can definitely share as much as you like. But it seems also that in 2014, that's the time where you said, okay, something's wrong. This isn't me. I need help,
Right,
right? Like before all that, like what was going on? Like and again, share as much as you like, Jasmine.
right. And so it was actually 2012.
Okay, I'm sorry.
2014 was when I graduated,
Okay.
but it was in 2012 when I walked up those 18 stairs, um, and I decided I needed help because I was addicted to methamphetamine, opioids, alcohol, and the lifestyle on the streets. So there was a lot of involvement with a lot of criminal behaviors that I had, um, that we will not get into detail because I will never
That's fine.
incriminate myself. however, 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 it was just I sum it up by saying the life on the streets, because that's basically what it is, and it all compasses, right? There's everything. There's violence. There's deceit. There's life of degradation, and just this emptiness that comes upon you, and you keep seeking it. You keep wanting more and more of something, but in all reality, you're empty.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, some people, addiction is addiction. It could be
Yeah.
with food, it could be with exercise, it could be with money, it could be because it could be anything. For me, my case, it was with drugs and the lifestyle on the streets. And what happened was is that obviously I became a mother at age 14, at age 18, and at age 24. And unfortunately, with my first two kids, I didn't have it in me to raise them. I chose drugs and men over my children. And that's the blunt truth. You know what I mean? I have enough recovery today to be honest and keep
Mhm.
it real. And does not mean I didn't love my children. Of course I love my children, but the drugs and the lifestyle was more powerful. And that's what happened, until finally I was 34 years old and I look back at my life and I'm like, what the heck am I doing? What am
Mhm.
I doing?
Mhm.
Um, I had dropped out of school. I had nothing. I have no clothes, no nothing, nothing. Everything's I was beat up from the floor up, and here I am, the same devil in a different suit, which I call because I had so much violence all my life. And finally I said, I'm done. And so I took a one train ticket to Oceanside, and this is where I ended up, and haven't looked back for coming up on 10 years.
Wow. Yeah. Let me just stop and say, wow, congrats. I know there's definitely a lot to kind of unpack, but again, I definitely think what you've been able to do, and whether it's the help of, you know, family, friends, the support that you did get at the recovery center. I think it's amazing that you were able to overcome that. And even now, just as you're saying right now, that you're what's the word, like you have it in you to say that, you know what, this is actually what it was, like keeping it real is, I guess, yeah, keeping it real. I know you mentioned something about like this feeling, or this sense of being empty. Um, can you tell me more about that? Like, would you say addiction is something that kind of ties into feeling empty? Because I want to try to connect to things, but
Right.
it,
So with addiction, so it begins with a choice, right? The first thing, it begins with a choice. But when it becomes addiction, addiction is no longer a choice when you're in it. Once you're in it, it's not about, oh, you don't have the willpower to get out, or you don't have it. You know what I mean? Like, oftentimes familia ends up saying, oh, tú puedes dejar eso, you just got to stop. Well, guess
like
what?
if you,
You can't just stop. You
mhm,
need help. You need support. You need clinical support, drug treatment to stop. You can't just
mhm.
cut it off one day. You know what I
It's not
mean?
a switch. It's not like a turn on, turn off.
And there's some folks that know how to do that, but then they substitute one drug for another. Maybe they're no longer using coke or methamphetamine, but now they're drinking. So it's, I'm in recovery. I don't drink, I don't use. I have 9 years and 9 months, I think. My birthday, my 10-year birthday will be May 2nd, 2022. And my clean birthday. And
Mhm.
it takes some therapeutic work to really dig inside, because that emptiness that we have when we're out there, there's trauma. I don't know if you've heard of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And so there's 10 questions. I love for, maybe one day we can share that amongst individuals that would be interested in learning more about that. But
Yeah.
that's a real study. Individuals that have suffered from trauma have higher chances of socioeconomic impacts, drug addiction, right? And violence. There's just so it's true. The ACEs study is very true, and you will find that a lot of individuals that um, have early childhood trauma, it negatively impacts their life as adults or mid teens,
Mhm.
and it just continues, right? It continues and continues and continues. For me, myself, that emptiness was, I was trying to find love in all the wrong places. And so yeah, and that's basically kind of what led to a lot of the how can I say that? A lot of the situations that I ended up in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I don't want to, come on here and say that I'm an expert. I don't know anything. I haven't gone through these experiences, anything like that. But I can kind of say that just from my own, I definitely can see how, talking about the ACEs study, I definitely do think that if a person, of a kid, at a young age does experience certain traumas, I do think that there's like future effects,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes they're not good. Like things like having to uh, attach to certain things or be addicted to certain things. That can lead to that.
Right.
Um, why do you why do you think you felt like you were looking for love in the wrong places? Like now that you are where you are now, looking back, what do you think caused that?
The looking for love. I grew up in a very strict home. My mom, she came to this country to succeed. She came to this country to make a new life. She was very strict and single parent. I'm the only half Mexican, half Salvadoreña in my family. And I'm also the first American citizen in my family. So, me giving birth at the age of 14 was like, it was shaming to my mom, you know. Um, there was a lot of violence growing up. Um, and incest growing up. And so those traumatic experiences as a child, I ended up learning later on um, that basically that's what I was looking for. I was looking for that love. Not saying that my mother didn't love me or my mom doesn't love me. I know today she loves me with what she can love me with. She too grew up without parents, basically. So she knew how to love the way she knew how to love. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but growing, as a teen though, I'm just blaming, right? I'm blaming my mom. I'm blaming my mom, and I took it upon myself to go out and do my own research, is what I call it, research, to find that love in other places. Come to find out, I just needed to accept my mom for who she was, you know, and having a child at 14, for her, it was like, well, you need to abort, and mind you, we were Catholic, right? And that's like, you don't do that. Um, and I knew it was something that my mom was really, really shameful about. Su hija de 14 años, you know, having a baby, you're supposed to go to school, get an education, and you know, you're the only
Yeah.
American citizen. You know what I mean? Like she had this thing for me, and in her eyes, I failed. And so just that dialogue between me and her, not being good enough, always a mess up, just those words that get told to you when you're young,
Hmm.
it impacts a child. you know what I've done after being an adult is a whole different story. That's something I took on upon myself. But I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, no, no. Yeah, you did. You did. It definitely, because the question was talking about just like that sense of emptiness, right?
mhm,
Uh, but I kind of see what you're saying. Like the way you grew up, you had very distinct experiences, right? And because of those experiences and things that happen within your family, it sounds like your mom came here, single parent,
mhm,
very strict. Like I think her coming here, she had like, and again, please correct me, right? But like she was probably coming here to create a better future for her kids, for you, right? And so, I think a lot of family or like grandmas or parents of the people that are coming to this
mhm,
had that same kind of mindset. Like they're very strict, right?
mhm,
And it's not like they want to be strict because, let's say, they hate you or whatever. No, it's because they love you. They
mhm,
need to be strict because this is an opportunity for us, for you. And so they have these expectations and things like that. But I think that also kind of may make it challenging because we as people growing up as teenagers, as kids, we do need that love. We need that affirmation, that kind of that we need our
Connected.
parents to be there.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
I like that.
Connectedness. And yeah, definitely connectedness. My mom was also 43 when she had me, so she was definitely an older parent. And of course, me rebelling was just because when I rebelled at 12, right, at 12, 13, 14, then I just did whatever I wanted, you know?
Hmm.
So didn't
I
make things
see.
better, but
Yeah, I see. And so I do want to come back and ask about when you in 2012, when you decided, like, okay, I need help, like this isn't me, right? What happened? Like, did something click? Did someone tell you something? Because again, I know, and I do want to touch on this, right? I know you're very religious, like you have a strong faith, and I think that's very important to you, right? But did something happen? Did you do something where it's like, okay, this is my low, or you
hmm
know?
hmm I'm gonna tell you exactly what I did. I was at this person's house and there was a Virgencita de Guadalupe. Um, and it was outside in their patio. And I remember praying to the Virgencita de Guadalupe and me saying, like, I need help. I don't know which way to go. I'm scared. I'm so scared. I don't know how to do this on my own, but I need to get out of where I am.
Mhm.
And I remember there was this lady, every time I would see her, she would always talk to me about God. Always talk to me about God. It's so funny because I remember that when I was in my addiction, I had a lot of little, certain people like out of nowhere, people that I didn't even know, like
Yeah.
talking to me about the word of God, and it's like, leave me alone, right? Like in my mind
Uh-huh.
back then, I was like, geez, leave me alone, like, But I
Yeah.
remember, I clearly remember that one day when I was 34 years old, and I prayed, and mind you, let's go back 9 years from that when I had my son Carlos when I was 24 years old.
Mhm.
Right, I was 24 years old when I had my son Carlos. I was living in the streets. I was in and out of jail and hotels and drugs and violence and all that stuff. I hid my pregnancy basically the whole entire time. I went to get prenatal care one time. And the only reason why I went was because I kept, like, I was popping, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're on drugs, things go by so fast that you ignore what's actually happening, right? Well,
Yeah.
I did that. I'm not proud of it, but I basically hid my pregnancy and finally I did try to go get help. I tried to go to an abortion clinic to get, an abortion. And
Yeah.
the lady looks at me and says, "You're 34 weeks pregnant. There's nothing we can do for you here. You've passed the cutoff." And even then I prayed, like, I'm stuck with this kid. Like I'm stuck,
Yeah.
like I'm pregnant, right? And I remember lifting my arms and saying, like, I need help. Well, shortly after that, within days, I had a little rinky dinky motel. I got raided. What is a raid? That's when the sheriff's department comes in and raids your place and breaks everything down. And I ended up going to jail that night. When I got released, I'm staying in different places and stuff like that. And, I tried to stop using, but I couldn't. I used my entire pregnancy with Carlos. And the only reason why October 31st was the last day I used was because they told me he was going to be born on November 5th. Well, my son wasn't born till November 18th. And I was fiending to use, right? Um, and that's the truth, you know.
Mm-hmm.
10 years later, I wish I could say that, my prayer, oh, this kid came out clean, he's good, okay, everything's good. That wasn't enough. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't enough because I needed something greater than myself. I needed a power greater than myself, which is God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell
And
you
when
this.
you,
Mhm.
I want to ask. So you said you needed something greater than your son Tubby. Uh, what do you mean? I mean, maybe you're gonna talk about it now, but what do you mean by that? Like you needed something greater than your son coming out clean and just being healthy and everything. Like,
Mhm. So when you start using, you don't, it starts with little dabs here and there,
mhm,
action steps, behaviors, right? um when you use, or when you call it relapse or whatever, relapse doesn't happens way before you actually pick up the drug, right? So when I gave birth to my son, I was super happy. I'm breastfeeding, everything's good, life is great, right? I'm good. Um my mom's helping me, everything's great, right? But then the little behaviors here and there, start sipping on some alcohol. Remember what I told you about one drug for another, right?
mhm,
You start sipping on some alcohol. Mind you, I'm not getting any treatment. I don't know anything about recovery. I just know I have this beautiful son, right? And I'm trying to live the mommy role, right?
mhm.
Um, but I'm sipping on some alcohol, right? And I'm not doing any work on myself because I don't know any better, right?
Yeah.
So I decide to, maybe I can go back to school. Let me go back to school and do something with myself, right? But I'm sipping on some alcohol, right?
Mhm.
On the weekends, weekend here, weekend there. Mind you, I'm sipping on some alcohol. Everything's
Yeah.
looking good, right? Oh,
On the
she's
outside.
on the outside, right? She's got a little, what's that street right there in Montebello, Greenwood or something. I had a
Uh-huh.
little studio apartment with my son Carlos, but I'm sipping on some alcohol. And so I'm not I'm not focused. I don't know any better, right?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm picking up some coke, or now I'm picking up some meth. Now I'm going hard. Now I'm just doing it on the weekends, the meth and the coke, or the pills, the opiate. You know what I mean? It starts
Mhm.
by just one little, you start, you know what I mean? And that's how
It starts small.
it starts small. It starts very small. And and it sucks to say, yeah, like my son wasn't enough for me to stop using. And it's sad to say that, but that's the honest begotten truth, you know?
Mm.
Like, hello, I had Angel and my daughter Precious.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't they be enough for me to say, stop? And it as sad as it sounds, but it's not that I don't love them or they weren't enough. It's this drug is taking over.
Yeah.
This drug is taking over. And it wasn't until I started really, like, okay, in 2012, where I reached out to God and, like, okay, I can't do this. Like, just the clothes on my back, the shoes on my feet, this 9-year-old that I don't know how to take care of, my other two that are being taken care of by their fathers, right? Thank God, that Angel and Precious had amazing fathers, like Toño, freaking badass, like he's awesome,
Yeah.
Angel's dad, Angel, otro, just an amazing father to his son. And my son Carlos didn't have that luck. He was stuck with
Mhm.
me, right? And so the life that I took him on, you know, running the streets and, you know, bicycles in the middle of the night in the alleyways and, you know, him calling the club, looking for his mom, like that's the kind of lifestyle he had. Or he was at, you know, your family's house or my friend's house, staying, you know, living, you know, in different places. The other day he said, Mom, you know how many schools I went to all my life?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like no child should have to go to 9, 10 schools,
Yeah.
you know? And so in 2012, I feel that when I actually surrendered to a power greater than myself, and I said, okay, God, take the wheel. I don't know how to live. Please take charge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I need help and I can't do this without you.
Yeah.
And mind you, I didn't grow up with a father. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, calling Jesus Christ the father of me, my God, my King,
Yeah.
that's what helped me through every
Yeah.
single day, you know, and so yeah, so to me that's what I mean by a power greater than me. It wasn't until I surrendered and actually asked for help.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I do want to touch on this because again, I think we're leading into, but like, I think sometimes, and again, just thinking of the mindset of like sometimes, okay, I, I get we've already established this. Like, I think we all have greatness in us. I think you truly embody that. Like you are an amazing example of this, right? And it's a very unfortunate that you went through all these things, but I think now like this is the Jasmine that, you know, if I can say that God created to put on this world, right?
Mhm.
But I want to talk about faith. You know, I know faith is very big for you, and you know, just from what you're saying, that's what you needed for you to kind of overcome this addiction.
Mhm.
For anyone, because you know, I think a lot of people uh, maybe don't and
Believe.
whether it's God, yeah, right, whether it's like being, and I want to distinguish this, like I don't think people and again, you tell me, right? I don't know if I don't think it matters. People need to be, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic, I'm a this, I'm a
Mhm.
that, whatever,
Mhm.
right? I think what matters is that you have a faith in something
Something.
like
Mhm.
a God. uh what about this thing, like, because God is like, if we're talking about just this thing, God, it's not like a physical thing. Like I can't look up like, oh, God's right here or God's right here, or you know, like
Mhm.
what about God in you, or you know what you're talking, like what about it really helped you?
Okay. Um, what really helped me is to know that God is kind, caring, and loving, and He loves me for who I am, and He forgives me. Um, I've carried so much shame and guilt. You see, I grew up Catholic, and I was always told, Diosito te va a castigar, Diosito te va a castigar. So the God that I grew up with was very punishing, at least the way I interpreted it.
That's how we learn it.
And yeah, and well, that didn't work for me because I rebelled. You know, I go hard. So okay, well, me va a castigar, pues let me go hard. You know what I mean? Um, and so in 2012, you know, when I asked for help, and I really want to touch on something really important, real quick.
Yeah.
That when my son was born, I went to the church and I did this. I said, God, this is your son. Please take care of him because I do not know how. And I did that when he was born. And I knew then that it was going to be hard.
Yeah.
But I also know that God knew that if this child were to be taken from me, I would not have fought for him
Mhm.
because I was so strung out in my disease. You know what I mean? And I think that, and that's just me kind of looking back, looking at the big picture.
Mhm.
It's like, no, you're gonna be a mom to this child,
Yeah.
you know. And in 2012, you know, seeking God for me, it was that He was kind, caring, and loving. he forgives me, and that there's more in my story, and that my story can be used for his glory. You know, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I had no idea. But one thing I did know is that I kept praying and saying, God, I cannot do this on my own. I can't. I don't know. You tell me. Talk to me, Lord. Talk to me.
Yeah.
You know, tell me to go left. Tell me to go right. I was so scared. And so I was like, I had no voice, by the way. Voice you hear right now, I was not. I was scared.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah.
there was just a lot of fear, a lot of shame and guilt for everything that I had done. You know, not raising my kids, you know, being told things that, you know, hurt,
Yeah.
you know, takes people out, you know, it takes people out when you get told certain things, you know, and that's why I always, you know, you want to be kind, caring, and loving to every single human being, because you don't know where their addiction or what they're going through mentally, where they can take that, you know. But yeah, a lot of shame and guilt, just a lot of shame and guilt, you know, for leaving my children behind and not being a part of their lives. A lot of shame and guilt for the situations that I put myself in as a woman. And just, you know, just, I felt unworthy.
Yeah.
Like I felt like a piece of, you know what, you know, and that's why today in the program that I run today, you know, that's the main thing that I tell women: you are worthy, you are strong, you're courageous, and you're valuable.
Yeah. I love that.
And when they, you know, when they come in, they don't feel that. And I tell them, I'll keep telling you that until you believe in yourself.
Yeah. And do you feel like you had that, like what you're saying to them is what you needed when you needed it? Like,
Yes.
I don't know if I'm saying that right. Okay. So I think we kind of got cut off. But yeah, so going back to, I know you were mentioning that what you say to the patients there now, it's like you're really affirming them, you know, to feel worthy, right?
Mhm.
And I think worthiness is something that um, it's like you don't earn worthiness. Like you just are worthy for everything, right? And if we're talking about God, I think we're all worthy of living,
Mhm.
you know, great lives, of being, you know, impactful in other people's lives and things like that. But I think sometimes circumstances, people, family, whatever it may be, kind of say otherwise, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. You know, that unworthiness really takes a toll on you when
Mhm.
when you're in that lifestyle. You know, we don't, how do I say this? Like, we submit ourselves to things that if you were clean, you wouldn't do,
Yeah.
you know? And so with that being said, you know, it's when we're clean, we have a choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Today I have a choice. Today I have a power greater than myself that I choose to call God. You know, everybody has their own power greater than themselves, and whatever that is, you know, I strongly suggest that they seek it in order for them to be able to, you know, do business with that, you know,
Mhm.
to heal some of those wounds, because basically they're wounds that need to be healed, you know. And if we don't heal those wounds, we're just going to continue this lifestyle and this cycle, and it's never going to be broken. It's like today, the woman that I've become, I have broken that cycle, broken that cycle of addiction. You know, even my son Angel, he started following my footsteps. He too is a miracle worker. He too,
Mhm.
God has blessed him. I mean, he was looking at life, you know what I mean? And it's
Mhm.
like, I mean, he just took 1 year clean on February 18th.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's in a program too right now, and he's basically doing everything that I was doing. But if
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been clean, he wouldn't have had somebody to, he wouldn't
To
have had
support
that
him.
role model. Like
Mhm.
now he's like, hey, if my mom could do it, I could do it,
Yeah,
and it's like,
definitely.
and so if that right there, like if and breaking the cycle for Carlitos could have
Mhm.
easily gone down that road if I would have stayed in that lifestyle. By
Mhm.
the grace of God, he is good. I
By the
say,
way, let people know where is he at right now, because
oh, right
we
now,
don't know.
Carlos is actually currently in Norfolk, Virginia, in the United States Naval Base. He's a Navy. He is a canine handler.
Ooh.
He has his own dog, and he basically searches for no, not guns, bombs, and that's what he does. And he graduated, second in command, top first
Wow.
of his A school, and really doing an amazing job. And then my daughter, I mean, what an amazing human being, man. Precious has a beautiful soul. She has a
Yeah.
beautiful spirit, and she keeps just striving for success, and being the woman that God created her to be,
Yeah.
and just her drive. And of course we want to thank Tonio for doing such an amazing job, with her. I
Yeah.
always highlight Tonio because he took care of her, and
Yeah.
Josefina, my chona, like they both like really took the reins and did what they
Yeah.
had to do. Um, and it's like I cannot be more blessed.
Yeah.
The fact that all my three children still want to have something to do with me, like I feel blessed and honored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, and I think that's God.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's, go
no, no,
ahead.
go ahead, go ahead. I was
Well,
just gonna, cause I go.
I just think it's God, like reunifying families and breaking the chains, breaking the chains, breaking the cycle of addiction,
Mhm.
like bringing us together as a unit. You
Yeah.
know, um, there's families out there that don't have that blessing,
Yeah.
and I am a blessed beyond measure, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
Definitely. Thank you. Claps to all that. Like seriously, I was smiling right now. My face is kind of hurting. But I say that because like literally, and if you all, hopefully as you're watching this video you get to see this, but like Jasmine is an amazing and loving person, like very passionate about what she does. If you get the chance to meet her kids, I mean, we're family, right? So I know everyone, but I can attest to each and every one of them, right? Like you are all amazing. And I love that you said we're all, or at least you know how you said it, we're all miracle workers. Within this event, we have this kind of thing, it's called CEO growth conference, right? Becoming the person you're always meant to be. And one of the points that we have on here, you probably can't see it too well, but it's basically breaking generational curses. And the reason why I was so excited to have you, Jasmine, is because I think you've overcome something that a lot of people still struggle to this day, right? But just like you said, we're all miracle workers. And uh, to tie this in and kind of just bring everything together, uh, now that you're here, you graduated from USC, got your master's degree, and like literally the way, and I was thinking about this earlier, I was like, literally the way I would describe you is like you were, um, and again, this is just how I think, right? But like you were a slave to this thing, addiction
Mhm,
of a drug, right? Like you
mhm,
didn't have control over it. you broke it. You broke this generational curse, this
Mhm.
this thing that was holding you down, right? Making it hard for you to be the Jasmine that God put you here to be, right?
Yeah,
And now you're back working at the same place you went
yeah,
to get help and
yeah.
helping other people.
Yes, yes, yes.
Let me stop and just like I hope everyone's seeing that. Like that's literally what she just did is did a full 180. There was a lot of ups and downs. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of lows.
Yes,
Um, and thanks to God and thanks to the
yes,
support of the rehab center that did support you, you're here now
yes, yes,
doing it. Like
yeah,
you're helping other people.
yes.
And so I I don't want to say this in a way where it's like dismissing anything because I'm sure every experience that you've had, whether it was a high or a low, things like that. I don't, but now looking back at everything, do you think you were meant to go through those things so that you can be this Jasmine now, to
Yes.
have this story and
Mhm.
help other ladies overcome this? Do you see that as a blessing, or
Yes. I,
yeah.
looking back at my life, I strongly believe that everything that I've experienced has been it's being used for God's glory.
Mhm,
Like I strongly believe that. I strongly believe that everything that I've experienced, I mean, I run a 55 women program.
mhm,
Every single woman has their own individual story, but very similar to mine.
mhm.
And so the fact that if I can impact at least one woman, I know I've done my job, and by the grace of God, I've been able to impact many. And it's like a domino effect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really, really important to me, um, because there's the children suffer, right? The
Yeah.
children go through their own traumas and their own pain and suffering. And if we can heal the woman, then we can heal the family.
Mm, I like that. Yeah. This is a side note, but I definitely do think that women, are like a key a key to like a family, right? They definitely hold things down. I think women have like I don't know if you'd call it a supernatural power, but they have like an essence in them that,
Mhm.
like, I mean, not to put men down or whatever, but I definitely think women
Mhm.
run it. They how Beyonce said, who runs the world, right? But okay, I have a couple questions. These are just like closing questions. Thank you so much for being here. I know we ran a little over time, but I hope everyone has really gotten something out of this. Like, um, and again, I've said this like a couple of times today, but like I do think you're a true embodiment of greatness, and not to discredit anyone hearing this or just being in this event. Like, I think we all have this, right? you know but I want to ask you this, like, if someone here who's listening to this, or one of the audience members, is going through some kind of slump or addiction, or is having a hard time finding themselves because they feel a little empty, how you had mentioned in the beginning. They might be looking for love in the wrong places. Might be they might be relating to something that you had said. Like, what's some advice, or what can you tell them, like, um you know yeah.
So my suggestion, I don't give advice,
Mhm.
but I
Yeah.
do suggest getting help, going to a drug treatment program near you. There's, if there's any issues financially, there are amazing, amazing drug treatment programs in your area that are county funded, with Medi-Cal,
Mhm.
and really get the help that they need to begin treatment. Um, I'm always a great resource. I can find drug treatment programs. I can call places, and get help and the resources available. But my main thing is always suggest, hey, go get help. Go take yourself to a drug treatment program, get some withdrawal management. Maybe you need withdrawal management first. Maybe withdrawal management is short term. We didn't really talk about that, but I do run a withdrawal management program as well, and it is short term, and it's mainly just to help them get clean real quick, and then go into residential treatment, and get the services that they need, therapeutic services, psychological testing, all that stuff, and really start digging deep, doing some trauma healing, and not be afraid, not be afraid to ask for help. It's in our culture, it's not normal to take ourselves to these programs in our culture. It's not normal for us to seek treatment or therapy. It's not the norm, but it definitely helps.
And what, because I definitely think that's very important to mention. Like, I know you said it's not the norm, but like, what do you say to that then? Like, should we, how can we overcome that? Or like, I mean, my immediate response is like, that shouldn't be normal. We should actually be able to talk about this more, right? Because I also know you mentioned that, your mom also wouldn't or wasn't able to help you, right, in certain ways, because from what you were saying is that she was like, just stop it, just turn it off, like that's it, just cut it. But understanding now and what you're saying is like, it I think sometimes we think it's an easy thing, but we don't know much. And so like, how can we talk more about this, like be more comfortable talking about, if that's it.
Yeah. Well, being accepting to help is step one, right? Admitting that we have a problem is one, and then surrendering to, okay, there's help out there, and being open-minded is really a big one. Keeping an open mind, because again, like I said, culturally, it's not the norm for us to go get, talk about our problems, right, to another human being outside of the unit. And so, getting help, therapeutic, psychological support, mental health, you cannot cut the brain in half. The brain is the brain. You cannot cut it in half. There's, addiction and mental health. It's all in here. It's all right here, So
It's not simple like I mean, I guess going back to the whole like just stop it or whatever, right?
no,
There's
you
more
can't.
to it.
It's a brain. It's the brain, and it's got, a lot of things. And, we didn't mention this, but it took me 18 months for me to get help with psychiatric medications. And I know we didn't talk about this, but it took me 18 months for me to accept that, And once I once I accepted that, that's what helped me continue on with my recovery. You know what I mean? It's not forever, but it was temporary. There's a lot of self-harm that took place with myself, that I, okay, now I'm clean, but now there's all these other factors, mental health wise, that I'm being faced with. So just don't be afraid is basically my suggestion.
I love that. Okay. I wanna I wanna end off on a high note. Again, just bringing it back and really highlighting who you are, because I definitely think that I want to distinguish, what you went through and who you truly are, right? This great miracle worker. And, again, you're doing the thing, you're helping people out. When's your buck dropping? When are we getting this? When can we get this book? Because I want to be the first.
I have thought about that. I really, truly have thought about that. I actually want to go for my doctorate.
Ooh,
I haven't started because obviously I am getting married and I can't,
yeah.
can't focus on that right now. But
Hmm.
that is another dream of mine, to
Yeah.
get my doctorate. Putting my story on paper is something that I've thought of, even a movie. Um,
Yeah.
well, not like Hollywood movie or anything, you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
illustrating everything, kind of like the video I sent you, but that one obviously is for work purposes.
Yeah.
Um, but I have thought about that.
Yeah. You let me know whenever that book drops. I'll be the first one to buy one. Okay. But yeah. Thank you, Jasmine.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I know everyone who's watching this, who listened in, got a ton of value from this. I guess the key takeaway is that, and again, please let me know what you want to add to this, but I definitely think it's that, you know, what we go through isn't who we truly are, and sometimes we do need help, right? We can't do it by ourselves, and if that means, getting help from, someone, or a group of people, but also, reaching out to something higher, right? Like your faith,
Yeah.
whether that's however you define that for yourselves. Yeah. Do you want to add anything else to that?
Definitely, it's definitely, breaking those generational curses is key, to living a more abundant life. My best years have been these past 10 years, and I wouldn't change that. I am glad that I got on that train, one-way ticket to Oceanside. It was the best decision that I've ever made. I've made other better decisions in my clean time. Back then in 2012, that was the best decision, and it is all about being the best you, believing in yourself, knowing that you're strong, courageous, and worthy, and knowing that God has better plans for you, and they're to
Yeah.
prosper and not to perish. So
Yeah. I love that.
yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Jasmine.
All right.